But one major reason is people who have become aware of the truth inside of government, the military, the intelligence community over the decades, frankly, didn't think the public could handle the truth. They thought it was too much, thought it was overwhelming, it would challenge people's beliefs, and generally speaking, that was a good reason to avoid telling the public for a long time. But I think we're at a place now where the public can handle the truth and deserves to know the truth, and everyone I interviewed feels the same. They break their silence with what they can lawfully disclose in this film, and it's a lot. You know, aside from the cover-up of non-human intelligent life, the interview subjects reveal that the U.S. is in a high-stakes, secret Cold War race with adversarial nations to reverse engineer technology of non-human origin. And the stakes couldn't be higher. They compare it to the Manhattan Project on steroids.
Do you have a sense that the government is hiding information or doesn't fully understand what they are seeing?
So the people I interviewed in my film reveal that there is a deeply hidden UAP, crash retrieval and reverse engineering program that involves elements of the military, the intelligence community, and major defense contractors. That program has been hidden from congressional oversight and even from the president. So there are certainly elements of the government that know the truth, but there are also elements of the government that are being kept in the dark. The good news here is our president is actively pursuing the truth and the answers to all the questions he doesn't know. And I think this film sets the stage for a president to step to the microphone and finally tell the American people and the public the truth, that we're not alone in the universe, that the U.S. is involved in this race to understand and reverse engineer technology of non-human origin, and the U.S. intends to lead the way.
Do you have any concern? I mean, critics have said that even with high-ranking officials in your film, you've got Rubio, you've got Gillibrand, you've got national security figures, that they say that you're still relying on speculation and claims that are not proven. So how do you answer people who say that your documentary goes further than the evidence?
I think this documentary is the most compelling evidence the public has ever seen. You know, it's 34 incredibly senior officials, military officials, government officials, intelligence officials, people we trust with the safety of our nation on a regular basis, them putting their name and reputation on the line to tell you what they know and what they can lawfully disclose, you know, at risk of, you know, their reputation being attacked, at risk of a lot. They put a lot on the line to do this and to tell the public what they can. And I think that's more impactful and means more than anything. We live at a time where if you put a 4K video of a UFO over a nuclear weapons base on your program this evening, half the country would think it's AI generated or some, you know, Hollywood visual effects. But our Secretary of State, sitting in a chair, going on the record, saying that this stuff's kept from the sitting president, that there is real UAP activity over our nuclear weapons sites. You can't unhear that, and you can't pretend it doesn't exist. You can't put your head in the sand. You can't say that that's an AI version of Marco Rubio saying that.
Very compelling. Dan Farah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you all so much for watching. Alex Michelson, get the coverage right now.
Is the declared divestment of Anglo from GBS. And as you know,
this is CNN Breaking News.
I'm Alex Michelson. Welcome to The Story Is. We are following two big breaking stories at this hour. In Washington, two National Guardsmen fighting for their lives after a shooting near the White House. But we begin in Hong Kong, where authorities fear the death toll could rise dramatically in a massive apartment block fire. As it stands right now, 44 people are confirmed dead. Nearly 300 others are unaccounted for, and many may be trapped on the building's higher floors. You're looking at live pictures right now from Hong Kong. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon right there. Firefighters are working to put out isolated flames. This firefight has been going on for nearly 21 hours. CNN's Hannah Montgomery joins us live from Hong Kong. She has just arrived to one of the spots where some of the survivors have been taken. Hannah, what are you seeing where you're at?
Hi, Alex. As you mentioned, I am at the biggest evacuation center in Hong Kong. We're actually just several hundred meters away from where the fire occurred in Tai Po. And I just want to show you some of the things that we've been seeing here. Behind me, there are stacks and stacks of bottles of water, also instant food, and different types of juices meant for the evacuees, people who are in desperate need of shelter. And then just down here, if you follow me, I don't want to get in the way of anyone evacuating here, but there's also just a pile of bedding and also mattresses meant for the people who are now taking shelter at this evacuation center. And Alex, as you mentioned, at least 44 people have died and a couple hundred people at least are still unaccounted for. And as people have been leaving that massive apartment complex and trying to find shelter, they're coming here. People also who are trying to look for their relatives, people who don't know where their loved ones still are coming here to try to get more information from the police, from the authorities. And as you can see, there are lots of volunteers here as well. I mean, it's been a huge community effort as people are just trying to gather their resources, trying to gather the sufficient aid necessary to help those in desperate need. Now, also, Alex, I do want to mention here that there have been a couple $1 million donated to Hong Kong from Chinese companies, again, in order to help support those in desperate need of such a desperate situation right now in Hong Kong, Alex.
And we know that 3 people have been arrested. There is a criminal investigation into what they're calling gross negligence from the construction workers here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We know that at least 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. Now, those 3 individuals, again, of course, this is very, very early days into the investigation, but authorities have said that the 3 individuals were tied to one specific company that was responsible for some of the construction efforts and also the materials used to repurpose and rebuild some of these buildings in the apartment complex. Now, the name of that company was written on these materials, so again, that is what led in part to their arrest. Now, authorities have speculated a number of different reasons why these fires spread so quickly and also so intensely. One concern is perhaps that people weren't evacuated in time, weren't evacuated quickly enough once that initial fire began around 3 p.m. local time on Wednesday. Another concern is that a lot of the materials used at these construction sites were highly flammable. We're talking about materials that are similar to plastic netting, also to canvases, and also bamboo scaffolding. Now, Hong Kong has long used this material in order to use it for scaffolding, but of course, bamboo is a type of wood, and once it catches fire, it can be highly, highly flammable. So again, investigators don't actually know the specific reason, the concrete reason why this fire was so deadly and spread so rapidly, but there are a number of suspicions and questions that still remain unanswered, Alex.
Yeah, so this complex had about 2,000 apartments, some 4,000 residents. We see a lot of the folks behind you. What are people saying that you've come across?
Alex, I mean, I think the resounding feeling here is absolute fear. I mean, when that fire initially broke out, residents have been saying that they didn't really know the extent of the fire. They didn't know how devastating it was going to be. It was initially, of course, a small fire, and then it began to spread rapidly and spread to multiple buildings in that apartment complex. In fact, my producer spoke to a couple of people at the evacuation center just moments ago, and they said that, you know, they were on their way home from work when they got a phone call from their family member saying that their apartment was on fire. Now, there are also some individuals inside that evacuation center upstairs who haven't been able to contact their family members. They don't know if their loved ones are alive or not, and they still might be stuck inside that building. Now, Alex, firefighters and rescue operators are still currently trying to access a number of people who still remain unaccounted for. They're trying to get to those higher floors inside those buildings that have been too hot to actually reach, even for those emergency operators. So again, Alex, we still don't know what is the status of those individuals that are remaining to be stuck in those buildings. But of course, there is fear that that death toll can rise in the coming hours, Alex.
Yeah, right now at 44, but as you mentioned, almost 300 people still missing. Hanako Montgomery, we will get back to you throughout the next couple hours of coverage. Thank you for your reporting, just arriving on the scene there. Now we go to our other breaking story. This one is in Washington. Law enforcement officials tell CNN that the suspect involved in a shooting that left 2 National Guardsmen in critical condition has now been identified. His name is Ramanullah Lakanwal. Authorities say sources say he's in custody and that he's not cooperating with police. The mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, says the guardsmen were targeted on Wednesday while they were on patrol near the White House. The president of the United States, Donald Trump, says the Department of Homeland Security is, quote, confident that that suspect came to the U.S. from Afghanistan.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
So after those comments, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services said that all immigration cases for Afghanistan nationals have been, quote, stopped indefinitely. The two guardsmen who were shot are part of the West Virginia National Guard. The state's former governor, who is now its senator, Jim Justice, had this to say after the attack.
We deserve to be safe in our cities. We deserve to be safe in our homes. All our president is trying to do is reduce the crime. And absolutely all of us should celebrate that, but yet this is such a heinous act. It's off the chart to me.
CNN's Brian Todd reports from the scene.
Just about every account from law enforcement officials, from sources, and from D.C. city officials, this was an ambush. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser saying that the National Guardsmen were targeted in this shooting, but a motive for the shooting right now not clear. What we do know from Jeff Carroll, the Assistant Executive Police Chief of the Metropolitan Washington Police Force, is that at about 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, a gunman came around a corner, raised a firearm, discharged it toward a National Guardsman who was a mere few feet away from the suspect. The suspect then turned their gun on a second guardsman who, according to sources, tried to take cover behind a bus stop shelter. Sources telling CNN that the gunman and the National Guardsman exchanged gunfire before the National Guardsmen were shot. At the time of this report, we can tell you that FBI Director Kash Patel says that the two National Guardsmen are in critical condition. Setting the scene for you here, this is a heavy police presence right near the scene. The scene, 17th and I Streets Northwest, is just beyond where these officers are in the foreground, right back there. This was near a metro train stop, according to the Joint Task Force. We did speak to one eyewitness, a young man named Ryan Akid, a visiting college student, who said that he heard the gunshots. He tried to hide behind some chairs because he knew what was going on. He then looked toward the scene. He said that he saw someone lying on their stomach on the ground with their hands behind their back, with at least one person holding them down. He has said he assumed that was the shooter. He said he also then saw some people administering CPR to one of the apparent victims. That's a consistent account that we got from another eyewitness, a lady, who said that she saw CPR being administered to a victim after she had heard the gunshots. As for an apparent motive, we did ask that of the Assistant Executive Police Chief, Jeff Carroll. They did not answer that at this time. The two National Guardsmen and the suspect are at local hospitals being treated. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Thanks to Brian. Let's bring in CNN law enforcement contributor Steve Moore, who is a retired supervisory special agent with the FBI. Steve, thanks so much for being with us. What's happening right now behind the scenes in terms of this investigation?
Well, this is going to be a massive investigation. It's going to go multinational. It's going to go multi-state. You have somebody who has been in the country for, 4 years possibly, from Afghanistan, was working with our military, allegedly, in Afghanistan, came over here seeking political asylum, and was working or living in Washington State. So you've got all that going on. You have agents in Washington. You have the legal attaché who's going to be handling Kabul area or possibly Islamabad, working on finding out what they can from him. Agents talking to the military who sponsored him over here. This is a massive investigation.
So President Trump is saying basically that everybody from Afghanistan, we're going to stop all immigration cases indefinitely. Do we have any indications so far that this is part of something broader, that the country or other Afghan nationals are involved in this, or is this an isolated incident?
We don't have an idea whether it's isolated or whether there are more people involved. I would be stunned if this was a mass movement within the Afghan community. I think what you're probably seeing is one individual, possibly more if he's got some friends who believe what he believes, but it is not uncommon for when you realize that you've had one major security breach in a system of vetting people coming to the country to not necessarily reinvestigate everyone, but reinvestigate your procedures before you continue.
So as far as what you can tell, then, do you feel like there is sort of an active threat here, or this is something that was unfortunate but not something larger?
What I'm saying is you cannot assume that there is not an active threat. There's no indication from what I've heard that there is an active threat. However, you have to, when you're talking about shots fired blocks from the White House by a military trained foreign national, you can't assume anything. You have to determine everything.
And in terms of you, when you first heard about this, what was the first thing that went through your mind as somebody who's schooled in this?
My first thought was, well, if these are National Guardsmen who were brought in by this current administration in what has been a controversial move, it seemed to me very likely that this was targeted against them for political reasons. I still think that's very, very likely. But I was kind of surprised by the nature of the assailant, the alleged assailant. But it is still apparent to me, and although this will have to be proven in court, that this was a targeted act of political violence, which is terrorism. It's the definition.
We're thinking about and praying for those troops and their families tonight, especially as we head into now Thanksgiving Day. Steve Moore, thanks for staying up late with us. Really appreciate your insights. Thanks so much, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
You too.
Coming up, Congresswoman Maxine Waters went viral this week for calling President Trump, quote, low down and filthy. She joins us next in studio to defend those remarks and talk about her future. And we continue to follow that breaking news out of Hong Kong, where rescue crews are still trying to get people trapped in buildings that have been on fire for nearly 21 hours. Hundreds of people are missing. We've got reporters on the ground. We'll head back there. Still to come.
Discover the power of active fixed income ETFs from the world's leading active ETF provider. With 16 active strategies to choose from, we are the home of active ETFs. Search JP Morgan Fixed Income ETF.
Now, you've written that younger people today are not as happy as their parents were. That's in part because of social media and things like that makes people isolated.
So it's a complicated thing, but there's basically a climate and weather problem that we find. And I don't mean that literally. The climate of happiness is all about faith and philosophy in life, about family life, about friendship, and about seeing your life as a calling, your work as a calling that is meaningful and serves other people. And all of those have been in decline. That's the climate of happiness. It's been ticking down since about 1990. Then the weather, the hurricanes and happiness have been really threefold. Number one was the advent of social media and screens in everybody's lives in 2008, 2009, 2010, which has just raised absolute havoc in the brains of everybody under 35 years old. That's what my new meaning book is about how we use our brains differently, and it's vacating the parts of our brain that we need to assess questions of meaning. The second is polarization, where baby boomers have tried to conscript young adults into their culture war, particularly on campuses. You should feel aggrieved. You're a victim. Everybody's trying to ruin the world. You need to be angry and afraid. And last but not least, of course, is what happened with the really misbegotten reaction to the coronavirus epidemic, which is to send everybody home, make sure that people don't interact socially, and that was catastrophic for happiness.
We're at the epicenter of a global realignment on a scale not seen for decades. At the intersection between markets, economics, and geopolitics, a forum for sophisticated conversation. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome back to Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. Now, you may remember that back in September that a plane carrying the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was affected by GPS jamming. Data suggests there has been a sharp rise in the number of GPS jamming incidents since early 2022. To get a take on this and the broader industry, let's bring in now Matthew Desch, CEO of the satellite company Iridium Communications, which compiled that data. Matt, just talk us through the kind of the spike that we've seen then in GPS jamming, and do we put most of the blame then on Russia for these incidents? What's the significance and what's the historical context?
Well, GPS has been around for many years, and unfortunately, it's the core of all of our digital systems right now. We know it navigates us to place, but people don't realize that your cell phones wouldn't operate without it. They wouldn't connect to a cell tower. Your data centers wouldn't operate. The stock exchanges wouldn't operate. But GPS is a very faint signal from space, and unfortunately, it's kind of easily jammed and spoofed and other things. So, you know, we invented a technology that's on our network that's a fix for that.
Well, talk to us about what that technology is, Matt, and what kind of appetite you're seeing then from consumers and your customers.
Yeah, with the rise in, most people know Iridium as a communication company, of course, a personal communication company. We've been in operation 27 years, but we realized our network had a very strong signal that if we sent timing information through it, we could be able to be a reference signal, an alternate really to GPS and Galileo kind of systems. And with the acquisition of a company called Satellus last year, we now have the first truly global answer to GPS jamming and spoofing. And it's going into ships now, it's going into cell towers, it's going into many things. And now that we've miniaturized the technology to a tiny little chip, you can go even into consumer devices and many other things. And so, you know, unfortunate jamming instances like the one you experienced, those things are going on across Europe. It's certainly around Ukraine, around Asia. They're increasing in frequency because people realize how much of the world depends on timing from GPS, and they're looking for solutions right now.
Are we closer, Matt, then, to given this technology change and what you're offering, are we closer kind of to an environment where most of us will be getting direct satellite to smartphone connections? Where are we in that journey? What are the opportunities there?
Well, that's another area of growth. I mean, space is quite exciting right now with all the investment going on. Many of us are working to innovate to, instead of making connections to purpose-built, expensive, large devices, we're looking to embed our technology from space straight into smartphones or into all the Internet of Things devices that people have that track animals, monitor assets, vehicles. You know, with the world going autonomous with vehicles and drones and that sort of thing flying around the world, you can imagine you want to do that inexpensively, and you also want to protect where those locations are. So a number of us are investing in that. Iridium is delivering what we call Iridium NTN Direct. We have mobile network operators who are signing up to roam onto our network when you're out of cell phone coverage. A lot of people don't realize cell phones only cover about 10% of the Earth's surface.
Oh, just 10% of the world's surface. Are you overly reliant on SpaceX and Elon Musk to get your satellites into orbit, Matt?
Well, we were one of their first customers, and in fact, one of their largest commercial customers. Fortunately, our network, our second generation network, is in space. It's one of the reasons why we're so profitable and generating so much cash right now, because we're not having to launch new satellites. In fact, we have a fairly new network right now with a long life ahead of it, and fortunately, it's very programmable. And so that's how we're developing standards-based 5G standards directly into our satellites, so we can talk to the devices that people own and enterprises depend upon.
Okay, Matt Desch, CEO of Iridium Communications. Thank you for taking the time. Let's switch focus to what's happening in the AI space then. More updates, of course. OpenAI partnering with Taiwan's Foxconn to design and manufacture hardware for data centers. It marks the latest move by OpenAI to meet its growing need for infrastructure to support AI systems.
To keep pushing the frontier, we need to build these new types of AI infrastructure hardware at scale. And I'm excited for that to happen in the US and with Foxconn. Foxconn's experience building complex infrastructure and hardware at massive scale makes them the ideal partner for this, and I'm looking forward to exploring together what this can look like. We'll share insight into emerging hardware needs across the AI industry, and Foxconn will use that to design and prototype new equipment that can be manufactured in America.
Okay, that, of course, the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, on that tie-up with Foxconn. There's a lot more coming up. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg.